Alright guys, so changing spark plugs on a 2003 Volkswagen Passat 1.8 turbo. Tools you're going to need for this are a Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, ratchet wrench with a 16mm socket. If you don't have a spark plug socket that fits standard spark plugs, you can use this 16mm. Take some good old electrical tape, stick it in there so that you'll be able to get the spark plugs out. I've already removed 3 of them, kept them in order. So this is 2, 3, and 4. I'll show you how to. And after inspecting, when I actually took these out, they weren't even tight. So I think that's part of my misfire. I'm going to end up cleaning these up and putting these E3s back in. And I'll return these other spark plugs. So I'm going to clean those and put them back in, tighten them down, and then I'll run the car. But to keep your coils in order, because you don't want to really swap them around in case you're getting a misfire on a specific cylinder. Alright, so say you're getting a misfire on cylinder number 4. That's the only misfire you're getting. You can take, to troubleshoot, you can take that spark plug coil and swap it with another one. So me, I like to keep number 4 and number 2 together, so I'll swap these 2 coils if I'm troubleshooting only one misfire. I'm having a random misfire, and because my spark plugs were loose, that's a good indication that's what it's from. So we'll clean up those old plugs and put them back in, but I'll show you how to get these coils out. So to get this top cover off, you got 3 little plastic. They almost look like screws, but they're not. What you'll end up doing, you take your screwdriver and twist them. They're a cam lock style, and they fit into. Where's a good one? They fit into this tab here, so my camera won't focus there, but it's oblong, so there's two fingers that come off of these little plastic tabs, and what they do, you see that, if it'll focus here, my camera won't focus, but you kind of see that it's not perfectly round. It's got a couple tabs on them that you fit into this hole, and when you turn it, it'll lock in there, and there's a spring underneath that too. So don't keep twisting them. You'll turn them once, you'll feel it click, and then you let up, and it should pop right up because there's a spring under there. So after you've done that, move this cover out of the way. The easiest way that I found with these is taking a flathead screwdriver. You can pull this tab right here, and you heard that click, but it's a lot easier if you take your flathead screwdriver that fits inside of here, and then see that tab moving right there. You stick that in there and just pull them off. So much easier using this flathead screwdriver. Make sure you find one that fits. There's a little tiny gap here. Feel that, and then you'll be able to feel the tab, the locking tab. Once you get that in there, you can leave the screwdriver, and then it pulls right off. So 2 tools down: Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. Next one, you just twist them and pull them out. So that's your coil. These are a coil unplug ignition system. So the next thing down there is a spark plug. Grab our modified socket with the electrical tape on there. Push it down, make sure it's on there. Grab your ratchet wrench. Yeah, these aren't even tight, so whoever replaced these last didn't do a good job. So once you get it past the hard point, you just turn it by hand, so you feel very little resistance, and we'll be able to pull that out. And our electrical tape holds the plug inside of there. These are a little dark, but they're I'll clean them up, put them back in, tighten them the correct way, and I'll show you how to do that. So hold on. Alright, so now we're gonna tighten this by hand until it doesn't turn anymore. Take our wrench, go a little bit farther until you can see I'm only using my fingers here. So there, that's my reference point, and I want to go a quarter turn. So a quarter turn, and then it's tight. So that's the proper way of doing it. There is a torque spec, but yeah, you can use quarter turn reference. So it's finger tight, and then you run a quarter turn with your wrench. So I'll finish reassembling all this, and then we'll troubleshoot it. And that's not the case, that the spark plugs were just loose. Cleaned them up, made sure the porcelain on these wasn't cracked, because mine is a valve cover leak in there. So what it ended up doing is it hits this porcelain here. You can see that oil line where it's been boiling on it. That boiling oil will end up hitting this porcelain, and then you'll get a arc in between this electrode, and it'll actually short out and cause a misfire. These you always want to, if you're going to reuse your plugs and clean them up and reuse them, you always want to check that porcelain. The other part that you won't be able to see is the porcelain on the inside. So if you have a new plug here, and you see the porcelain on the inside, and that can actually short out too. Not quite as common. It's always a good idea. I mean, plugs are cheap enough, but I want to see if it's because these weren't tight enough. So I'll finish putting this back together, and I'll do a test run, and then if that's not the case, I'll swap out the plugs. So like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Alright, so one more thing to check on TuneUP here for spark plugs. Now, not all spark plugs are going to use these little washers. Okay, the way you can tell if you need it, if you need these to be on your new spark plugs, look at the old spark plugs. If you got this little washer on there, well, then use it. And there's two different, it is tapered there, so you want to look at the spark plugs you're pulling out in order, and see which way that taper faces. Okay, see that there's a taper on there. So you want to see which way that faces. Put them on the new spark plugs and go there. The other thing you can check on some of these coil-on plugs style ignition systems, you can get just this rubber inside of here. That can actually cause, especially if you have a valve cover leaking like I do, that can cause a misfire. I have a random, so if by chance they all went bad at the same exact time, then that's probably a 1 in a million chance that all of these rubbers on each of my coils there went bad, but that's a rare chance. So if you only have one misfire, and you swap out your coils like I told you in the first part of this video, swap your coils plug to plug, and you still have a misfire on that one cylinder, then it's probably your spark plugs. Okay, but if you swap out that coil and it transfers, I'll show you here. If you swap that number 4 to your number 1 or your number 2 there, and your misfire doesn't, and when you scan it, your misfire isn't on number 4, but it's on number 2, it's going to be this coil. Okay, so that coil is bad. So the first thing you want to check on that coil, if you want to run to a junkyard, grab one. If you're lucky enough to have a junkyard with the same car as you that you're replacing, check the junkyard, grab a couple of them, you're dealing with used parts, so it's not always 100% there. But the first thing you want to check on that is this rubber inside of here. Okay, it's silicone, but that rubber will actually short out, because this whole case, this metal sleeve right here, is all, it'll short out inside of there from that rubber being bad. I have a random misfire, so it's not my coil. And like I said earlier, the spark plugs were loose when I went to take them out. So I'm gonna keep the old plugs in there to test it. And you always want to make make sure your coils are seated really well if they don't have a screw down point, because mine have holes in the valve cover here. There isn't a bracket that goes over the top, so I don't know if the person who had it before me didn't put them in, or if that's how they are originally, but you always want to make sure those are down tight and they're fully seated. So that was the last thing I wanted to show you guys. Sometimes you can order just that rubber from the parts store for the coil. Sometimes you can't. You got to order the whole piece there. But you want to take your chance with a junkyard part. I've done it before. Sometimes it turns out, sometimes it doesn't. So thanks, guys.